Greetings, welcome back to IBI, India Business Insights. After 5 videos on the leading companies in the QSR industry, today we will be looking at the analysis and the summary of the entire QSR industry. We will also be comparing these brands against each other to judge their profitability and growth. QSR is an abbreviation for Quick Service Restaurant. Burger King, KFC, McDonald's, Domino's, Pizza Hut and Taco Bell are some of the well-known international chains of QSR restaurants. QSR restaurants have restricted menus and the food is often available for takeout. Having said that, many QSR restaurants offer seats with a practical ambience, plastic seating, branded graphics and fluorescent lighting. In 2022, the global QSR market was estimated to be worth $723 billion. The QSR market is predicted to develop at a CAGR of 4.8% to reach $881.7 billion by 2027, thanks to the growing disposable income in densely populated countries such as China and India. In the fiscal year 2020, the quick service restaurant market in India was estimated to be worth around 188 billion Indian rupees. This is expected to increase to more than 500 billion rupees by 2025. QSR accounts for a sizable portion of the country's chain food service businesses. Food service were valued at 397 billion rupees in fiscal year 2020. The Indian QSR market is bolstered by a number of macroeconomic and demographic factors that are favorable to further market growth, such as growing nuclearization of families, rising disposable incomes, and urbanization. Due to the country's rapid urbanization brought on by the population growth, economic expansion, and an increase in people's disposable income, eating out has become increasingly popular. In addition, the expansion of Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities and the growth of fast food franchises of underserved areas have contributed to the increase in quick service restaurants. Economic growth. In the recent quarters, when many parts of the world have experienced economic difficulties, India has continued to experience robust growth with the Q1 of financial year 2023 growth at 13.5%. Young populations. The expanding working age population has been a significant driver in the expansion of the food industry. From 36% in financial year 2000 to 49.8% in the financial year 2019, India's working age has increased significantly and this trend is predicted to continue. Over time, this will result in rising income levels per household as well as high discretionary spending. In financial year 2020, millennials in India ordered once a month and went out to eat twice a month. Due to a lack of time on personal and professional fronts and an increase in aspiration levels, eating habits have changed throughout time. To relieve the stress of busy consumer routines, this has led to a growing involvement in dine-in and order-in activities. The rising popularity of eating out in India's big centers among all socioeconomic strata without waiting for a special occasion has increased demand for QSRs. Some of the risks for the QSR industry are real income growth, fragmented market and increasing competition, shortage of skilled staff and high attrition, high real estate prices, higher preference for non-junk or home-cooked food. Talking about the future growth prospects for the QSR industry, international QSRs have connected with Indian customers thanks to their value proposition, which includes a wide range of entry-level goods, reasonably priced meal upgrade options, and discounted prices on combos and meals. While value continues to be at the heart of the market, businesses haven't been afraid to provide premium options in response to consumer demands for great indulgence, which helps the business increase ticket size and margins. In order to increase consumer trials and ultimately scale up consumption of these offerings, QSR companies have also branched out beyond their core menu items. Another important factor in growth is the availability of the convenience channels. Delivery, takeout, drive-through, and on-the-go, which are not only essential for any QSR company today, but also crucial for the future given the rise in ordering frequency and expanding user base. Many major QSR players have chosen to embark on ambitious expansion plans, particularly outside of metros and Tier 1 cities, which will directly affect their growth as a result of the organized food service industry's strong growth prospects and appealing real estate costs. Key players in the QSR industry are Jubilant Foodworks having franchisee of Domino's and Dunkin' Donuts, Restaurant Brands Asia having franchisee of Burger King, Westlife Development having franchisee of McDonald's, Sapphire Foods having franchisee of Pizza Hut, KFC and Taco Bell, Devyani International having franchisee of Pizza Hut and KFC. We are going to review the growth of the QSR industry and its players over the last few years, how they coped up with COVID and shutdowns, how their profitability evolved, and how their varying strategies affected their cost structures and profitability. While 2021 to 22 was impacted due to the second phase of COVID, but the QSR industry still showed a sharp growth. Restaurant Brands Asia has shown the fastest growth at the CAGR of 26.53% for the past 6 years and 38.30% for the past 4 years, showing the fastest recovery after COVID. Jubilant FoodWorks, in spite of its significantly higher base, has continued to grow at 11%, though this growth also fell during COVID years. While Sapphire had a sharp dip in financial year 21, it also had a high growth in financial year 22 and had a CAGR of 12.93% in the past 6 years. Similarly, Devyani also grew very rapidly post-COVID in financial year 22. Westlife had shown higher growth with a CAGR of 12% in the past 3 years from quarter 1 of financial year 20 to quarter 1 of financial year 23 as against Jubilant with a CAGR of 9.68%. This could be due to the much lower base. Restaurant Brands has had the fastest growth from a lower base. With the highest number of restaurants and highest store count, Jubilant, the oldest QSR player, is a leading company among all the companies. Companies like Sapphire and Devyani hold the national master franchisee for some leading brands, are constantly expanding and reaching newer locations and opening stores at a very fast pace, and has even set up very aggressive targets. Notwithstanding the impact of COVID-19, Devyani continued to expand and open new restaurants rapidly and moved from 692 restaurants in quarter 4 of financial year 21 to 1008 restaurants in quarter 1 of financial year 23. Restaurant Brands Asia, with the least number of stores, plans to open 700 restaurants by December 2025. Even Domino's, the largest QSR brand owned by Jubilant, continues to open new restaurants even in mature markets to ensure quicker deliveries. Devyani has seen a very strong EBITDA growth. This can be attributed to the brand contribution margin, a key KPI, which improved to 19.9% in financial year 2022 versus 14.4% in financial year 21. This helped to drive the EBITDA to Rs 2,995 million, the highest ever, with improving margins. The expansion of stores of this and almost every company considered above will create operating leverage as fixed overhead expenditures are spread across a greater number of outlets, thus improving EBITDA margins and profitability. Effective cost management will help manage profitability at the brand level. So we expect the EBITDA margins of all these companies will grow rapidly. Almost the entire country was impacted by the COVID-related lockdowns. Many families had also stopped ordering food from outside. While the adverse impact of COVID continued to some extent throughout financial year 21 and quarter 1 of financial year 22, Westlife Development Company reduced costs even as revenues improved, strengthening liquidity and accelerating its transition from EBITDA positive to cash positive to net profit positive during the last 3 quarters of financial year 20 to 21. During the last quarters of the year, the company achieved an operating EBITDA margin of 9%. In the following year, financial year 2021, the company, like many of its peer group, had taken several steps such as rent negotiations, rationalization of supply chain, store operation, crew labor, utilities, etc., cost switching some yearly services to need-based and bringing down discretionary expenditure like travel to ensure optimum cost utilization. They increased the proportion of profitable stores by lowering their break-even point and rising average store sales while enhancing same-store sales growth. As a result, EBITDA margins increased in financial year 21 to 22 as against financial year of 2021 for all the companies. We should consider quarter 1 of financial year 21 as a special case and ignore it for the purpose of this analysis. Restaurant Brands Asia has suffered from low margins over the years. During financial year 2021, the company had paused new store openings due to COVID. In quarter 4 of financial year 21, the fast food chain opened 1 and closed 6. While in financial year 21, the firm made a net addition of 5 stores, opened 16 and closed 11. The stores were closed on account of non-performing stores and relocation. Jubilant had been a pioneer and had shown the highest EBITDA margin in all the years. Through its fortressing strategy, it's able to generate stronger revenue growth, stronger EBITDA growth, a stronger customer experience, and generate higher efficiencies and lower costs. Jubilant also has a high realization because it has built its own delivery infrastructure over the years. Whereas the other players also need to share a percentage of their revenues to their delivery partners. We do not have enough data to understand if it would make economic sense for some of these players to shift away from their delivery partners. The cost of materials consumed percentage to revenue is the least for Jubilant among all the companies for all of the years. This is the result of its strong pricing power. Also, it has successfully created new value-added and higher-priced products consistently over the years. While all of the companies have experienced some improvement in their food costs in the recent quarters, they have limited pricing power and there is a likely impact of rising food inflation. So it is to be seen if this recent food cost improvement can continue in the coming quarters. The employee benefit expense of almost all of the companies had shot up during the early quarters of COVID, as the sales had declined very sharply. This has come down to around 12 to 15% of sales for all of the players. The employee cost of Jubilant tends to be higher as it has a higher proportion of delivery staff than others. Also, in the case of restaurant brands, the employee costs tend to be higher due to aggressive restaurants. Recently opened restaurants also take time to reach their optimum level of sales. For the purpose of this analysis, the major other expenses include rent, advertising and power, and fuel expenses. While these expenses as a percentage of revenue varied sharply until 2018 to 19, as each of these companies were at a different stage of development, they seem to be now falling under a narrow band of around 36 to 39%. This is somewhat surprising considering that in each of these expenses, there is a significant variability in some expenses, particularly in rents, and a difference in the business model. So, while Burger King had relatively larger restaurants and still continues to have amongst the highest per restaurant sales, Domino's tends to have smaller stores and focus on delivery since its early days. A significant reason for this convergence could be the sharp increase in delivery businesses for all of these brands. While in the initial years, restaurant brands in particular had higher advertising expense as a percentage of sales, with the increase in sales and with a stronger focus on digital promotion, this expense as a percentage of sales is beginning to fall in a tight band of around 5% for most except Jubilant. The advertising expenses for Jubilant have tended to be somewhat higher in the last 3 years. Until 3 to 4 years, Jubilant was the only significant player in the delivery market. During the last few years, all the QSR brands have made significant entry in the delivery segment with their delivery partners. Jubilant has had to make efforts to retain its dominance in this segment. This slide shows the comparison of the rent expenses percentage and power and fuel percentage to revenue of the leading companies. While Domino's and McDonald's have been in the industry for the longest period of time, Jubilant with its delivery-focused model and its Domino's pizzas has been the more successful brand. This is surprising as globally the burger brands have many more outlets than pizzas. In India, for some reason, while burgers were considered snacks, pizzas are considered full meals. Further, Domino's has been far more successful in introducing pizza suitable to the Indian palate. Perhaps the burger has an inherent limit in the number of varieties that can be created. The profitability and the operation of all the companies were affected during the COVID-19, that is for the financial year 2020 and financial year 21. But all of them did extremely well. While they have been able to retain their increased delivery sales, the dine-in sales have also increased dramatically in financial year 2022. They also seem to be benefiting from a large scale to office goers and college students and other daytime mall visitors due to the complete lifting of COVID restrictions in most of the country. All the companies introduced new strategies to cope up with the pandemic and took digital initiatives. While other companies are tweaking their strategies to come to profitability, Jubilant FoodWorks has the lowest direct material cost as compared to the other companies, has a strong advantage. This seems to come from its business model and pricing power rather than from scale. In the recent past, the entire QSR industry has also been able to succeed because of the online food service aggregators like Zomato and Swiggy. We have yet to see We are yet to see if the newer brands will tweak their business models significantly and focus more on online sales. It is yet to be seen if any of these brands who have announced major restaurant expansion plans shift to a slower restaurant expansion and a stronger focus on cloud kitchens to support online deliveries. The greatest tailwinds that these companies have experienced is that even with the global economic turmoil, India has continued to grow rapidly. Further, while we have experienced some inflation in the recent quarters, with a well diversified and healthy agricultural sector, the food inflation is in check. So, the industry has many things in its favor and is likely to continue to grow rapidly over the next several years. And with this, we come to an end to our series on the QSR industry. Hope you found these videos insightful. Let us know what you think about them in the comment section below. For more in-depth analysis of companies, subscribe to India Business Insights. Thank you.